Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Matt O'Connell and this is Spoken Truth Revolution. Really appreciate you joining and watching and liking the posts and sharing the posts. And hey, it takes all of us to start change in this country as we see things going down a slippery slope and we see morality decreasing, depravity increasing. It takes each and every one of us to participate and to speak up when we see injustice and tyranny taking place right before our very eyes. So, two big stories out of this week, as you probably know, and everybody is talking about the situation in Afghanistan, and more news about COVID. And if you wanted to take a step back and see how someone could royally screw something up so bad, look no further than the Biden administration. Obviously, if you've tuned in at all, if you're on social media, you likely have read about, seen videos, seen pictures about all of the Afghans and American citizens rushing, is it Kabul? Yeah, Kabul Airport, Kabul, in Afghanistan, the capital, trying to get out because here's what happened. As you know, the Biden administration withdrew the troops, the boots on the ground, the protection force, the security force there. We were there for 20 years. He withdrew them and he left the citizens. He left American citizens and Afghanis that assisted those U.S. security forces to, as you may recall, when the Taliban and Al-Qaeda attacked the Twin Towers nearly 20 years ago. It'll be 20th year anniversary this upcoming 9/11. That's why we went in there into Afghanistan in the first place, as you probably know if you've been reading about this situation. And they withdrew the troops first. Doesn't make much sense. I think, again, all the commentaries are coming out at Biden. Like, why didn't you make sure all the civilians and make sure all the Afghanis that supported the troops being helping them to adopt the culture and getting information, security information, whatnot, from the communities. Why didn't you withdraw those people first and then withdraw the troops after the fact? But again, nothing makes much sense, right, with this administration, with the Democrats, how they lead. They focus on things that are not real. They focus on things that they create in their imagination. If you're a man, you can be a woman. Don't look at the data related to COVID. Just listen to us. Listen to the elites. Don't worry about the fact that COVID is a 99.97% survival rate. Just take the shot. It's 2 weeks to slow the spread. Just wear the mask. Get the vaccine. Get the 2 stabs or jabs, whatever you want to call them. Oh, that's not going to be enough. You're going to need a booster. Listen, nothing makes sense anymore. Nothing makes sense anymore. And you know what? Here's a story in relation to Afghanistan that doesn't make any sense at all. From Politico, it says this. It says, even though U.S. officials tell National Secretary NatSec Daily and others that evacuation flights from Kabul will be free, people are trying to catch a plane in the Afghan capital say differently. One person said State Department staff were seeking large payments, up to $2,000 from American passengers and even more from non-U.S. citizens. When we relayed that this person told us to the State Department, a spokesperson didn't deny that this was happening. They said the following: U.S. law requires that evacuation assistance to private U.S. citizens or third country nationals be provided, air quotes, on a reimbursable basis to the maximum extent practicable. The situation is extremely fluid, and we are working to overcome obstacles as they arise, the spokesperson said. In other words, the Biden administration may request payments for evac flights. Like, are they going to be charged for their carry-ons too? Are they going to be charged for their carry-ons? Like, these people worked for, in this case, the State Department, worked alongside the American troops, whether, they're non-U.S. citizens, they're Afghanis, to prevent the terrorist regime, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, etc., from flourishing in this country. They're helping the U.S. because, again, it was in response to 9/11 and what happened almost 20 years ago. And they're being, clearly, the Biden administration is turning their backs on these people who don't have the training to defend themselves, likely, and they have to pay thousands of dollars to get out of there. Are you kidding me? It's such arrogance. I mean, and the other thing, just the scenes that we've been seeing of people flooding the airport in Kabul and trying to hang on for dear life to the jets, the C-17 jets, and we don't understand the desperation that these people are truly in, to the point where they are they understand how torturous and evil the Taliban are, and they are willing to place their bets, put all their chips on the table to hang on the side of a C-17 jet in hopes that they will make it to America or another country outside of Afghanistan, because they likely know that their lives are probably going to be over. And that's the desperation that we're seeing, and women throwing their babies over barbed wire fences, hoping that the American troops that are currently there, I think there's about 2,000 troops there still, hoping that their children will get a remote chance to have a decent life outside of Afghanistan, throwing their babies over barbed wire fences, never seeing your child again, willing to take that risk because of the desperation and understanding. We don't even understand the desperation that these people are truly facing. And frankly, it is purely the Biden administration's fault. We just have to give credit where credit is due, and we have to place blame where the blame is due. And we need to continue to pray for these people, because it's just devastating. It's interesting. I hope the left sees this. I hope the left sees these people who are coming from the southern border, throwing their infants over the southern border wall in hopes that their infants can have a future in America with opportunity. We see people from Cuba building these makeshift rafts out of like school buses and empty 5-gallon water, tanks and recycled material, sailing across 100 miles in the Gulf of Mexico to hopefully, if the tide is right, if the winds are right, that they land in America, and willing to risk their lives, willing to risk their infants, their babies' lives, throwing them over the walls, sailing across an ocean, likely with a likely chance of them not making it. Higher chance than dying from COVID, that's for sure. And we see these people hanging on the side of C-17 jets, likely not going to make it. But the left is still pushing the fallacies about how this country is so terrible, so evil, systematic racism, how from the top down it's a white supremacist culture. These people are all minorities willing to die to get to this country. And we need to continue to pray and put pressure on our representatives, because I think we all hopefully all of us hold the same sentiment to get these people out of Afghanistan as quickly as possible. And if the situation in Afghanistan has told us anything about the Biden administration and the Democrats and the elites, is that they cannot be trusted they, in a split second, will turn their back on you. And I think if there's one thing for us all to learn from is that we should not give the government more power over our lives regarding anything. And now that's a great segue as we talk about some of the COVID updates, right? So Dwight Eisenhower said the following: if you want total security, go to prison. There you'll be fed, clothed, given medical care, and so on. The only thing lacking is freedom. And isn't that true? Did you think they would stop the government in relation to COVID? Did you think that once again, 2 weeks to slow the spread, why don't you just hunker into your homes, don't go out, get all the food shopping you need? Absolute chaos when that happened. I thought it was the end of the world. People running around with 3 shopping carts filled with food, frozen food, everything. Did you think once we did 2 weeks to slow the spread just to mitigate the hospitalizations, the government would stop? Did you think after when the lockdowns were lifted, then the essential, what the government labeled as essential businesses, they allowed those essential businesses to open, such as strip clubs and marijuana shops and liquor stores. And then they continued to shut down churches and other, conservative related events. But if you protested BLM, if you were Antifa, you could just burn a city down and they would applaud it and confirm, nope, not a super spreader. But if you went to a Trump rally, oh, that's a super spreader. If you went to the Sturgis bike rally, super spreader. But if you went to Portland and set up an autonomous zone, nope, not a super spreader. Did you think that the government would stop? How about when they said, let's get the vaccine out, and then most people will get vaccinated and we should have herd immunity or whatever. I know people don't want to talk about herd immunity. Then we'll stop. Then we'll lift the mask. Then you won't have to wear a mask everywhere. And then you could increase your, the number of people, the occupancy within your business. You don't, as if you own a restaurant, it doesn't have to be 50% capacity, and now it could be 100. Once you get the vaccines, we'll go back to normal. And then no masks. All right. We did that. We got the vaccines. We did as you said. And now we need to get a booster shot. So we have the vaccines. The vaccines work if they work as they're telling us that they will work, because you need to get it, because we need to force you to get it. There's billboards up in Times Square, arrogantly saying, it's a doctor putting a needle in someone's arm, and it's get the effing vaccine, wear the effing mask. Like, you tell me to effing do anything is going to promote me and to encourage me to do anything at all. It will not. Because what will not, though, is when there's a line drawn in the sand, you say, do this, we did it, and then you erase the line in the sand and you draw a new line in the sand. Because that is what everyone is seeing in relation to COVID. In Afghanistan, the situation highlights the general behavior of how the government wants to control its people and turn its back on the people that they're supposed to govern in promoting the constitutional values and the Bill of Rights and our constitutional rights as well. And they are not doing that. They're bit by bit trying to take away our freedom. Take away our freedom. And NPR reports about the booster. And so health officials are preparing to roll out COVID-19 booster shots in the U.S. this September. According to a plan announced Wednesday, all U.S. adults who received a 2-dose vaccine would be eligible for an additional jab of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine 8 months from when they got their second one. These booster shots are free. Maybe they'll enter us in a lottery, or maybe we'll Maybe they'll offer us a trip to the Bahamas or something to, encourage people to get it, because COVID is so deadly. It's so deadly. It's such a deadly disease. Well, why don't we take a look at the numbers? I'm going to display a couple screenshots from the CDC, and I'm going to put the links in the comment area of this video so you can do your own research and you can speak confidently about how the government is trying to exert its power unconstitutionally, illogically, because COVID is not the most deadly disease. It's not even as deadly as the smallpox. The smallpox without the vaccine had a 30% death rate. If COVID had a 30% death rate, I would be the first in line. Give me the jab. Give me the boosters. I don't care what I need to get. Just stick it in my arm if it was a 30% death rate. COVID, let's look at the numbers together. Okay? So the first thing that you're looking at right here, okay? This is showing the total deaths, and I highlight the ages between 0 to 49 because it's likely that folks who are not getting the vaccine are within this age bracket from ages 0 to 49, okay? The rest, 50 plus, they're likely getting the vaccine. So if we want to trust the institutions, they get the vaccine, they're doing their due diligence, they should be safe, correct? If they're getting the vaccines. And everybody else who is not getting the vaccines, are they taking a risk? Perhaps, but are they at risk? That's the question. So as you can see, based on this data from the CDC, and again, you can see the URL as well, as of August 18th, 2021, there's been 30,268 COVID deaths. 30,268 COVID deaths, okay? Now, there is another area in the CDC that is not talked about. And actually, I was arguing with someone online because arguments online are so efficient and so winnable. I'm being sarcastic but I think it's important for us to continue to engage online respectfully, not shooting people down with malicious language and calling them stupid. Like that will not do anything. Even if they do it to you and to me, I just like to shoot the facts out and share the URL so they can hopefully wake up from this fog and cloudiness that is over them regarding COVID and the perception that it is so dangerous. So this next screenshot shows it's the preliminary estimated COVID-19 cumulative incident, aka this is what the CDC is anticipating who actually got COVID, because the actual COVID cases that are confirmed cases do not represent the totality of who actually and how many total COVID cases there truly are. The COVID cases that we usually see and what the news will usually tell you about is just you actually go into the doctor's office, you get the swab up your nose, you choke a little bit, you cry a little bit, and it tests positive. But when you're just sick and you don't go to the doctors because you feel better the next day, you may have had COVID, but you didn't go and get tested and they can't track that. But here's the estimated total cases that they're estimating, not including what you've actually been tested positive as a COVID victim, if you want to call it. But this is what they're estimating. For the ages between 0 to 49, 87,299,599. Okay. The total cases of COVID is around 32 million that were tested positive COVID cases. Again, these are estimates of who actually got COVID. This next screen will tell us how we calculate the mortality rate of COVID. So first, we want to find the mortality rate. We take the total deaths, which is the 30,268, divided by the 87 million, which is the estimated total incidence of people having COVID. And that gives us this decimal, 0.00034671. We need to then, the next line, multiply that number by 100 to then put it into a percentage form. And that gives us the mortality rate. COVID-19, based on the CDC estimates of total cases, is, in comparison to the deaths, is a 0.035, we'll round it up, percent mortality rate. Okay, we got that. Now let's find out the survivability rate based on the total estimate of COVID incidence. So we have the COVID survivability rate for ages 0 to 49. So you take that percentage, 0.03476%, you take 100 minus that mortality rate, and that gives you 99.97% survival rate. Okay? That is the number that, based on the CDC's estimates, based on what they are estimating as far as how many total COVID cases there were, not positive tests, but total COVID cases, if you are in the ages of 0 to 49, you have a 99.97% survival rate. And this is important. Why is this important? Because why is the government trying to push for masks? Why are they trying to push for vaccine passports? Why? Why are they doing it? We have the data which could be skewed a little bit. CDC could, there was debate early on that more hospitals were showing and displaying more COVID cases because it was argued that they were getting more money from the federal government if they had, folks who quote unquote tested positive for COVID. And so hospitals, because, that's kind of the downside of capitalism, they were trying to get money. And that was an argument that was being made. But even so, looking at the CDC data, 99.97%, it's time to take the mask off. It's time to be equipped with the truth, with the data, with the knowledge, and to confidently, respectfully say no. It's time. It is time. Because those who are vulnerable likely got the vaccine. The elderly, those with comorbidities, those who are 50 years old and up. And if they got the vaccine, in my last video, take a look at my last video, it shows the deaths are decreasing. So even though the cases are increasing, really, it doesn't matter. Cases don't matter. I've been a little sick the last week. My son was sick. He just started school. We kept him home for a day because he was all snotty, and then he felt better the next day. And it's kids at school and licking railings and doorknobs and sharing, gum with each other. Like, this happens every year. It's like a bunch of hypochondriacs running around having a field day and then trying to tell everybody else to fear what they fear. And we have to say, no, shut up. That's not what the data says. It's like, no. But now they're requiring a booster shot. So do you think they'll stop? Do you think the government will stop? Because the data is on our side. The truth, even the truth of this is on our side. Do you think they stop? Do you think they will stop? Do you think they'll stop? I don't think they're going to stop. They're now saying boosters with a death rate of a survival rate of 99.97. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Needless to say no. The data is on your side. Say no. Have a great day.